Coming up on Centennial Sportsnet. Viva Italia! The Atomic Ant's prodigious talents have Toronto FC poised to make the playoffs, and the team is eager to sing his praises. There were some amazing performances at the 46th Annual Red and Blue Bowl, and some not-so-great performances. Looking for a new hobby? Don't be afraid to get up close and personal with your friendly neighborhood Brazilian Jiu-jitsu masters. And the Ryerson Rams try to break through in the preseason against the Memorial Seahawks in OUA action. It's another edition of Centennial Sportsnet. Watch it!
Good evening. I'm your host, Martha Kruk, alongside my lovely co-host, Alexander K. Lee. Now, Alex, can you believe it? The Blue Jays. Playoffs are happening this week. Did you ever think this day would come?
Oh, Marta, the city is absolutely rocking, and not just because of the Toronto Blue Jays. There's another Toronto franchise ending a long drought. Toronto FC is on the cusp of qualifying for their first MLS playoffs, thanks in large part to the best Italian import since Amarone, Sebastian Giovinco. We sent Nelson Perez down to BMO Field to ask his teammates just how important the diminutive Dynamo has been to this historic season.
2015 has been a great year for Toronto FC fans so far. The signing of Italian striker/playmaker Sebastian Giovinco created a lot of expectations about the team for this season. Giovinco has done his part. With 21 goals and 15 assists, he set the franchise record for most goals and assists in a single season, and he's only 8 goals behind Chris Wondolowski's MLS record of 29 goals in a single season for a rookie player. For the city, it has been amazing to watch, but let's see what his teammates feel about his performance this season.
No, it's amazing to watch. It's an amazing thing to see, really, to practice with him every day. You see things, you know, in this team that we've never seen before. We've never had a player like this in our history.
Yeah, Sebastian's a fantastic player, a fantastic talent, and you know, it's been great to play with him, to learn from him. You know, because I know he's smaller than me, but he's older than me, so I can learn from him always. And
he's been invaluable to us. It's really hard to say where we'd be without him so far. His goals and assists have been huge in our attack, and his presence is great for us. So
his presence on the pitch has helped his teammates, not only because of his skill level, but because he drags defenders with him, which creates space for others. The all-around level of the team has improved since the Italian Atomic Ant arrived at BMO. But he's not only praised for his form on the pitch. His teammates appreciate him for the way he is as a person.
For me, the thing about Sebastian is everybody knows his talents, you know, around the world, here in Italy. But how he is as a person, for me, is the best. He's a great guy off the field, and you know, he's a guy that you want to spend time with, you like to be around, and you're happy to see a guy like this do well. You know, I'm really happy for him.
Have you learned like anything from him, like any tricks or something like that?
Yeah, actually, he has a way of creating space for himself. I think I've been learning a little bit from that, and trying to do it half as good as him. And I think it's been helping me. Yeah.
Sebastian Giovinco has led this team to be one step away from clinching their first playoff berth in the history of the franchise. And as well, he received his second call-up for the Italy national team since he's playing in the MLS. For Centennial Sportsnet, I'm Nelson Perez.
They say opportunity knocks when you least expect it, and that is certainly the case for the young man in our next segment. Rob Marsiglio has the story of Teshaun Tran, a football player who signed up for one job and found himself with an even greater responsibility.
The Northern Secondary School Red Knights are one of the top high school football teams in the city of Toronto. They have won numerous championships, including 2 Metro Bowls, most recently in 1994. Like most high school football programs north of the border, Northern faces a big problem.
Everywhere across Ontario, that's just something you have to deal with, right? Kids are going down to prep schools in the States, or they're being recruited by private schools, things like that. That just happens, right? You know, every school has to deal with it.
Coming into this year, Northern appeared to be sitting pretty, with standout QB Marcus Reeves set to graduate from the junior varsity team. But the lure of the States drew the JV MVP to St. Francis High School in upstate New York. His replacement, Teshaun Tran, came from an unlikely source.
Having Teshaun, you know, just basically throwing balls after practice one day and showing me he has an arm, you know, was sort of, he just sort of dropped out of heaven for me. You know, holy cow, where'd you come from?
Well, I was injured at the start of the season, and I was just tossing around after practice, and coach saw my arm and just asked me to come out next practice for quarterback.
Domenico went on a gut feel that first encounter, And the conversation with Teshaun went something like this.
Who are you? I had no idea who he was, right? And he said, here, throw that ball. And I said, here, go back another 10 more yards, throw the ball to me. And it was zip, banana going, hey, maybe I got something here, right? So I said, guess what? You're the quarterback,
Like I was fine with it. I'll do whatever the coaches want me to do. If they want to put me anywhere else, I'll go. Doesn't matter.
He goes, oh, okay. I don't think he realized what he was in for, though, right? I'm on his back, every step he takes, I'm criticizing, because he has to, if you're going to be quarterback, you just can't just run around back there. There's a lot of technique that you have to follow, and he's starting to learn the technique, and he's getting better, right?
Just a few weeks into the season, and the learning process has already begun. But the transition to field general won't be an overnight thing.
You have to appreciate, he's never played quarterback before. It's one thing, throwing the ball on the backfield here, right? There's another thing when you got to worry about your your footwork. You got to know what everybody is doing on the play. You've got to read keys. So we've been working a lot on, proper drops and throwing on the run and, squaring up his shoulders and those type of things, right? But he's getting better, certainly, the difference in a week is a big deal, and 2-3 weeks is going to be even bigger.
Being comfortable with his teammates and making big plays are things that are helping Tran's confidence grow every day.
It's been good because I played with some of the receivers outside of school, so yeah, we just all know each other and we just practice together all the time, even on the weekends and stuff.
That touchdown was really big that he threw there because now it gave him a little bit of confidence, right, that he can do it.
Both coach and players see the challenges that lay ahead of them, but it isn't stopping Tran from setting lofty goals for the end of the year.
Goal is to stay healthy and win Metro Bowl.
He will need every ounce of that confidence if he is going to bring glory back to the center of North Toronto.
It's always great to check in on those kids who could play at the next level someday. Speaking of which, in OUA action, we saw the Toronto Varsity Blues face the York Lions at York Stadium for the 46th annual Red and Blue Bowl. Both teams struggling early in the season, hoping to get their second win. One of these teams would rise, while the other would stay true to form. Let's go to the action from last Friday to see which was which. Former York Lions and Toronto Argonauts Andre Dury, Ricky Foley, and Jeff Johnson were part of the opening ceremony to provide the 1-4 home team some much-needed inspiration, but based on how this game turned out, they probably should have suited up. We pick it up halfway through the first quarter, U of T leading 3-0, and Nick Naylor into punt on 3rd and 14. He should have just gone for it. The ball slips through his fingers, he decides to run. Owen Lanalampi comes out of nowhere to deliver the open field hit and stop him a yard short of the first down. Now U of T has the ball, and running back Alex Malone swings to the right side and breaks a couple of tackles, capping off a nice 23-yard run. More on him later. Same drive, backup QB Marcus Hobson scores the first major of the game on a 1-yard run, 10-0 Blues. On to the second quarter, and Anthony Iafredi attempts a 36-yard field goal. It's good. He was 3 for 4 on the day, and the Blues continue to dominate the Reds. Late in the first half, Simon Nasser rolls left, finds Raul Madan for the 13-yard TD connection, throwing a touchback for a single point, and this looks like another York Lions nightmare as it is 21-0 at the half. Halfway through the third, York's Eric Kimmerly throws the 14-yard TD to Adam Adebaboye, and the York Lions' fortunes have changed, or not. A holding penalty on the play negates that. York has to settle for a 27-yard field goal by Naylor, now down just 21-3. Less than a minute to go in the third, Madan completes the Kimmerly TD pass just before running out of real estate. That's his second TD of the night, and the Blues now cruise 31-3. We talked about Malone earlier. This time he needs a second effort to penetrate the end zone for his first TD of the game. Malone had an absolutely incredible night. He would rush for 257 yards, good enough for the OUA Offensive Player of the Week award. The final score was Toronto, too much, the Lions, not enough. And with the loss, York falls to 1-5 on the season. The Varsity Blues now lead the head-to-head series 29-17.
Coming up, we get down and dirty at the Burlington Training Centre. Our hockey panel analyzes the Eastern Conference competition. And we start the basketball season early with the Ryerson Rams and Memorial Seahawks.
Are you bored at home? Tired of staying in on a Friday night with no plans? Well, the Third and Long hotline is here for you. We have operators standing by 24/7 to answer all your hottest and deepest fantasy football questions. Don't have a cell phone? Stuck at work? Is traffic too heavy on the local newspaper website? Call our toll-free number. What do you have to lose? Call now. 1-888-555-6969. Our experts can help you determine who to start, sit, stash, or quit. What's your fantasy?
When the weather gets a little colder, it's time to put on that jacket, sip on some hot chocolate, and oh yeah, get ready for the hockey season. A lot of eyes are on Canadian teams, the Montreal Habs, the Ottawa Senators, and especially a newly managed Toronto Maple Leafs. We have hockey insiders Joe Narsa and Matt Malandricolo in the studio with host Rob Marsiglio breaking down the upcoming season for the Eastern Conference teams.
Hey everybody, and welcome inside the Centennial Sportsnet Hockey Studios. I am, as always, your host, Rob Marsiglio. Today I'm joined by our hockey insiders, Joseph Narsa and Matthew Malandricolo. Boys, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Wonderful. Puck drop, 24 hours away, even less now. Let's take a look at the 7 Canadian hockey teams going into the NHL season. And Joe, let's start with the Ottawa Senators. How do you see them shaping up this year?
Well, the Sens are a team I've had trouble buying into for quite some time. I mean, Ottawa was able to slide into the postseason last year on a hot goalie in Andrew Hammond, but the Hamburglar posted a 1.79 goals against average, winning 20 out of his 23 starts. And I do not expect him to continue that torrid pace. And honestly, opposite-wise, I expect a down year from the Sens netminder. And with question marks surrounding Craig Anderson, both on his injury front and his consistency between the pipes these last couple years, I expect Ottawa to just miss the playoffs, coming 5th in the Atlantic Division.
Okay, so we have Ottawa just missing the playoffs. Let's head a little more east. And Matt, you got the Montreal Canadiens. Where do you see them this year?
Well, Montreal, they came out of their Eastern Conference loss last year against Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm looking for the Habs to take the Atlantic Division for the 2nd straight year this season. The addition of Alex Semin at a very reasonable price adds a guy 30-goal potential, high skill up front on a roster that had some trouble scoring last year. Not to mention the Habs sporting the reigning double MVP and Vezina winner Carey Price. With the world's best goalie in net, the Habs should be poised for another Eastern Conference championship run, and bearing a playoff injury, a solid competitor for Lord Stanley's mug.
Okay, so we think Montreal's got a shot at the Cup. One team that many people don't think has a shot at the Cup is this next team we're going to talk about. New coach, though. Joe, tell us about him and the Maple Leafs and their chances.
Well, I mean, the Babcock era has begun, and with that comes the pain. I mean, the Maple Leafs sport one of the most outstanding front office groups in the NHL. However, they are not on the ice, unless it's Brendan Shanahan. So, with the ice product being unimpressive and the trade of Phil Kessel leaving the Leafs lost out on their #1 scorer, the depth moves of Boyes and Parenteau and Matthias will help ease that loss, but their impact on the ice will not be enough to plug up the huge hole left by the polarizing Phil the Thrill. And the defense core is much of the same, and although Babcock will install his system, it's hard to imagine a complete 180 from one of the weakest defense cores in hockey. The goaltending, on the other hand, should be the lone bright spot for the Buds, with Bernier and Reimer between the pipes. But again, both goalies still battling for the starting job, Bernier coming into his 3rd year. The lowly Leafs will be nowhere near the playoffs, but will come in 6th in the Atlantic Division, just edging out their QEW foes, the Buffalo Sabres.
Very nice. So that wraps up our Eastern Conference predictions and just analysis from the NHL season. Like we said, puck drop in less than 24 hours. And let's hope it's a good one.
You know, it's no secret that I'm a martial arts fanatic. So it only makes sense to have Marta here introduce our next Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu piece. Marta?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? You mean the grappling-based combat sport whose North American origins date back to the early 20th century when Mitsuyo Maeda took on a young Carlos Gracie under his wing, eventually leading to the evolution of modern mixed martial arts and the UFC. That Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
That is correct. Now, here's Lauren Maharaj with a piece on a budding jiu-jitsu school in Burlington.
You can be strong, you can be talented, but every time you go to the mats, you're going to have always someone better than you.
Brazilian Jiu-jitsu is a lifestyle for head coach Marcio Nunez. The Rio native has been sharing his knowledge of the sport for over a year at Burlington Training Centre. But Sunday was particularly special for him as he was able to introduce his loyal students to two-time world champion and four-time Pan American champion Bruno Fernandes.
When people ask me, like, what's the point of jiu-jitsu, I always tell them, like, to control someone. You know, like, I mean, you're not, like, looking to hurt anybody, and, you know, like, I mean, the goal of learning the ground game is to be able to control someone. You know what I mean? So after controlling someone, you can choose what to do.
Both men have dedicated their lives to the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The two can boast over 20 years of training under their belts, including with the forefathers of the sport, the Gracie family. And through it all, it seems one thing continues to stay the same, a constant need to learn and to share.
Let's focus on the student, right? I mean, the whole point of doing the seminar is that they learn. Like, it's not a show, it's not a performance. You know, so I try not to focus too much on me, but I try to plan in advance and bring techniques that they can apply after I leave.
I believe it was a great experience for my students. Most of my students are beginners, and I believe that they show to them how jiu-jitsu is, and they have the great opportunity to meet one of the greatest guys I know, a greatest guy on the sport, and I believe this is really valuable for everybody.
If you ask me what belt I am today, I'll tell you that I'm a white belt that never gave up. For Coach Nunez, it's that simple quote from practitioner Jean-Jacques Machado that is the basis for all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu success.
I consider myself a white belt, and that quote I took from Jean-Jacques Machado is one of the greatest on the sport as well. I don't know if you know his story. He born with a kind of handicap. He only have the thumb and the pink, okay? Yeah, and if you see his matches, is unbelievable, right? He's only like half of his hand, and he choke everybody. And that show to people, doesn't matter you big, small, you old or young, the sport for everybody.
Here at the newly founded Burlington Training Centre, head coach Marcio Nunez was able to introduce Bruno Fernandes to the students, and Bruno gave a look into his skill set and his experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to 30 participants. Considering it was the first time that they held the seminar, it's fair to say it was a great success. For Centennial Sportsnet, I'm Lauren Maharaj.
From the mats to the hardwood, CIS women's basketball preseason underway with the first exhibition game on hand, where the Ryerson Rams took on the Memorial Seahawks. Now, both teams starting their seasons at Ryerson's Madame Athletic Center, and if you haven't heard of Memorial, they're a hard-working team from good old Newfoundland. Number 14, Sydney Stewart starts the first quarter with the 3, but her efforts alone cannot hold off the Rams as the Seahawks fall way behind after 5 minutes of play. Now it's all Rams after this. Nice team effort and communication here as all 5 Ryerson players touch the ball. And you see here Teshaun McDonald with the finish. Let's go to the third quarter. Seahawks still trying to fight as Lindsay Taylor steps it up with the 3. Stewart catches the Rams sleeping and with the quick reflexes steals the ball and finishes it. She would end with a team high of 20 points. Now Rams coach Carly Clark not looking too happy about that, but would soon have a smile on her face as her star player Sofia Pasca continued to control the game. Pascal was untouchable with her effort on the glass, helping the team to a 45-32 rebound advantage. The 6'4" sophomore also made a statement with a game high of 22 points. No mercy here, the Ryerson Rams push the Memorial Seahawks out of their way for their first preseason win. Final score 100-75. Ryerson is back in action on October 16th at the Madame for the Darcel Right.
Now, don't go anywhere. We've got more top-notch analysis as we break down Canada's West Coast representation. And then we hit the hallways of Centennial College to dive into the mind of the casual sports fan.
Defensive back coach at Wilfrid Laurier University. Hey, this is Sam Sabrin, the defensive assistant and strength and conditioning coach for the Waterloo Warriors.
Ryan Edwards, third-year defensive back, University of Guelph.
Tom Marshall, number 28. I'm fullback for the Western Mustangs.
It's in Super Elite.
With Super Elite.
I am a super elite athlete.
And I'm a super elite athlete.
Earlier, we told you everything you need to know about Canada in the Eastern Conference. Now we head over to the West Coast with our Centennial Sportsnet insiders. What do we got, Rob?
Thanks, guys. And we're here now to look at the Canadian teams in the Western Conference and see how they're going to do this season. And once again, we got Joe Narsa and Matthew Malandrucolo. Let's get things started with the second best thing to come out of Newmarket since yours truly, Connor McDavid and his Edmonton Oilers, Joe.
Well, number 97 is about to start his hopefully illustrious career. The number 1 overall pick should be a fantastic addition to the Edmonton Oilers. But for me, I think that that fantastic addition will pay dividends in the future. The one upside he should be able to give Edmonton right off the bat is being able to help out a guy like Nail Yakupov, who hasn't had a great start with the Oilers. The guy's a pure scorer, and having a center like that should absolutely help them. I think the addition of adding a guy like Griffin Reinhart and Andre Sekera should definitely help out the Oilers on the back end, but I still do not have too much trust in that goaltending situation. The Oilers just waived Ben Scrivens and are going to be going with Cam Talbot, and although he was very stellar in New York, he just will not have the same defense core. I'm expecting the Edmonton Oilers to again come 6th in the Pacific Division. Not this year, Edmonton, the city of champions, will have to wait a little bit longer.
Okay, and now from the Oilers, I think it makes sense to go to their combatants in the province of Alberta. The Calgary Flames is who I'm speaking of. And they had a great season last year, Matt. Can they repeat this year?
Yeah, that's going to be the main question, Rob. I think this year, Calgary Flames, they were the surprise team in the NHL last year. And we'll look at, again to solidify their place in the league with another playoff appearance. General Manager Brad Trevliving stepped up this summer and acquired Dougie Hamilton from the Boston Bruins and locked up captain Mark Giordano to a long-term deal to build up the blue line. They will need to have solid goaltending again this season from Jonas Hiller and Kari Ramo to help this young team to get into the postseason.
Very nice. And now over to the Sedin-led Vancouver Canucks. What kind of impact are they going to have this year, Joe?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to the Twins, you have to assume it's going to be the consistent 70-point season. I mean, one of them puts up the assist in Henrik and the other one scores the goals in Daniel. I think the key for Vancouver is how we're going to watch them grow and develop. They have the youth coming up in their system with Jake Virtanen, and you're looking at guys that are consistent on the back end, having Ryan Miller in between the pipes. I think ultimately what's going to shore up that Vancouver team is how long they can keep themselves taped together. They're a little bit of an older group when it comes to what you need to win. And Vancouver, although has the luxury of playing in a division where San Jose Sharks are starting to age and look to be rebuilding, LA could potentially be another up and down team, looking at the fact that last year they weren't able to crack it, year before win the Cup. They are a little bit topsy-turvy, but I'm looking for the Vancouver Canucks to still squeak in, coming in 3rd against the aforementioned Calgary Flames.
Very nice. Now coming down the home stretch, wrapping things up in the Western Conference, we have the Winnipeg Jets. Back in that rocking city of Winnipeg, great home arena. Matt, is that going to help them this year?
I think so. Last year was a very surprising season for them. After 99 points and 43 wins, Paul Maurice and company will look to get the team to play solid two-way hockey again this season, and will need Andrei Pavlik to keep up his strong play between the pipes. With Alec Burmistrov coming from the KHL after 2 seasons over there, and will need to supply secondary scoring for a team that has said goodbye to Michael Forlik.
Very cool. So where do you see him finishing then?
I see him right at the bubble at the end of the playoff spot for the Western Conference. It's definitely going to be a fight for them this year.
I definitely hope to see him do well. I do like the Calgary Flames out west. Mark Giordano coming back for full season.
That's a big signing. Definitely big signing. He comes in under Dion Phaneuf.
There you go.
6.75.
Who would have thunk it, eh? Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the NHL season.
Everyone thinks they're an expert when it comes to sports. You'd be surprised how far people will go to prove that they're a true fan. Sportsnet Nate Metzner and Stacey Deshawn walked the halls of Centennial College to see if you know whether their statements are fact or fiction.
Alongside Stacey Deshawn, and today we're switching up from the sports a little bit, and we are going inside Centennial College to test the knowledge of some of the campus students around here.
Do you think that we should tell them that some of these facts are not facts at all, but lies?
No, I don't think we should. We should just see how much they're willing to go about and lie.
Sounds good to me. Let's see what they say.
22 years since the Blue Jays have won the World Series. They just won it on the weekend. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's pretty exciting.
I saw down at Eden Center that a lot of people are wearing Blue Jays stuff right now. That's pretty cool. A lot of people in Toronto are supporting it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How do you think that Roberto Alomar played in that final playoff game?
I think he did great. I mean, I watched the game myself, and he did like a really good job.
Tom Brady Deflategate, how do you feel about him being traded to the New Orleans Saints as a result of it?
He's getting traded?
Yeah.
Well, goodbye Boston, I guess.
What do you think it's going to take for him to take his New Orleans Saints to another Super Bowl?
Well, he's seeing the ball really well. I think if he just keeps hitting it out of the park and knocking down those clutch threes, they're not going to be stopped all the way to the cup.
Yeah. You ready to go? Cheering for Saints or what?
Yeah, who day?
So there are confirmed reports that the Milwaukee Bucks are actually being moved to Vancouver as a new franchise. How do you feel about that?
I think that's interesting considering the long history that the Bucks have had in Milwaukee. So for them to move to Vancouver I think it's great for Canada.
What do you think that the team should be? You said that they should change the mascot, so.
Probably a bird or something. Yeah.
That's cool. What kind of bird?
Probably like an eagle or something. Like eagle with like five beaks or something like that. Like something scary.
Vancouver 5 big eagles. That's cool.
It's just been announced that Drake has now become the new GM for the Toronto Raptors. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty cool. I think that Toronto needs some kind of celebrity to kind of boost our image. So yeah, I think it's great.
I hope that they win back-to-back championships.
And there you have it, our first segment of Fact or Fiction. And we had some great insight from our sports insiders, from the interviewees that we had, whether it be true or false.
We did. So for myself and Stacey, this has been Fact or Fiction. Back to the desk.
Thanks to Nate and Stacey, and a big thanks to the students, the wonderful students of Centennial College, for playing along with that little bit. Marta, I don't know about you, but my plans for the week are to head back to the second round of cricket tryouts happening Thursday and Friday.
Oh God, please don't tell me you're going back there. Alex, I hate to break it to you, but you did not make contact with the ball.
I remember it differently. I don't know, were we seeing the same thing?
In the words of that Frozen movie and that song, let it go. Please let it go, Alex.
Marta, of course you're right. No, you're not. I will be at the Wellness and Athletic Center Progress Campus for the Centennial College cricket tryouts. I'll see you there. Have a great night.